Um, I'll do a roll call. Rep Burnham. Here. Susan DeRoy.
Here.
I'm sorry, Rep. Rep England.
He was gonna try zooming.
Oh, that's right.
There's nobody's joined yet.
Okay. Rep Howland.
Yep.
Rep Kaczynski.
Here.
Rep Lamontagne. Rep La Rochelle.
Here.
And Rep Potenza.
Here.
And Rep Wall.
Yes.
And others that are here, not on the committee. Representative Schmidt, as far as representative. We got it. Okay, so our next order of business is to approve the minutes of our last meeting. Does anyone have any comments? Yeah,
It says June 13th and July 11th.
and did we not do them last?
We did
time?
not do the minutes
No.
for June 13th,
Right.
we really need to officially do the 13th and the 11th. To make the minutes approved so that we can share them with everybody.
So make another question. So seems like ages ago, I've had a few things going on, but when I read those minutes, it seemed like as I remember, there were certain things that I know I said and other members of our party that were not included in there. I didn't realize you were gonna vote on it. I missed the last meeting. I thought those got voted on already. I would have looked into that more, but I would say I vote no on this because of that.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
In the future, if a member of the delegation wants their comments reflected in the minutes, normally minutes usually just reflect action. And a lot of times we write a general discussion ensued and then you take an action. So if somebody wants their comments reflected in the minutes, they should say, they need to say that. So that we can make sure that they're in the minutes if they want, because if you're.
Not a verbatim record.
Right, it's not, you don't have a stenographer here, taking every word and every, like a court hearing. I'm just making that as a suggestion to you.
Okay, I think it's really important though, from that meeting, wasn't that the meeting where we basically needed to go around the room and give kind of our goals? That's the whole purpose of the special committee. So I do believe it should be reflected in the minutes. I have a program on my computer that can basically take what people said and just transcribe it. I'd be happy to do that because I think those points are important. Points on both sides, our side, that side, whatever, everybody that's part of this. So I think that's important. I'm not gonna say that I won't approve or whatever, but I haven't looked at it closely enough, but I would want some of my things that were reflected as well as Tom's, Bonnie and Sue. I think it was important. Some people just didn't say much, but others had things to say. And I think it was important, Janet, what you said as well was, I think all those things should, like, we're talking about a bullet point. We're not talking about a diatribe, so.
Okay, so I have to say, this has been one of my favorite arguments over 13 years, is minutes. So I try to make, the minutes to me are really important because I want to make sure that everybody who's not here gets it. We have an outstanding minute taker that does a great job. I think the big thing she's tried to do is to get the draft of minutes out to people before we actually have this meeting. Therefore, you had an opportunity to read her draft and then submit your comments so that we come here and we can amend them. So in terms of trying to keep us moving forward and not spending really substantive time on the minutes, but rather spending it on the agenda, my suggestion is that we approve these minutes. The comments that have been brought forward will be reflected in the minutes for today. you can then, whatever additions you would like to add to the minutes, you can then send them to our minute taker. And she will add them to this current minutes, which you will then approve our next meeting.
Perfect. It's reasonable.
I just want to be clear, I don't consider myself a vain person that wants to read what I said there. But I didn't realize that in the future, that all we're gonna have is action items. I mean, the opinions, the comments of members are kind of important, I think, and sometimes they sway an argument, so.
We're on it.
Yeah. I think also at the end of the special committee, we will be making recommendations and we may have dissenting recommendations, but I think that's the really important part in which we make clear what our thoughts or positions are. So, and everyone will have an opportunity to review that and make sure their input is in that going forward. I mean, I agree, it's just hard to get every comment down into the minutes, even though you try, you know.
Thing is, when somebody looks at the minutes in the future, you know, and they're gonna look back and they won't get quite a clear picture, you know, because this is the record of what got discussed, such here, an important issue.
Aren't these meetings online? So if you really wanna.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah, no, when I was on council, we had a time where we recorded everything verbatim. And then decided, and it was a lot. And so we decided we'd go by the law. Law basically says you have to have who attended and what decisions were made. That's the law. Above and beyond that's extra. And George pointed out, if you want any comments in the written minutes, go ahead.
Sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the June 13th, June 11th minutes.
Who's second that? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
Did we get that?
Was just, yeah, I got it.
Yep.
Okay. What's next?
The census data.
I really don't have anything to add to that.
Okay, I'm gonna say something from this one, because I can't pull my little computer thing up here, but we were sent census data of what Riverside's Medicaid numbers were, and then we were sent what the county numbers were. And the reason I think it's important is when we're talking about the Riverside facility, what the census, what is our census, what are we aiming for in the future, what's kind of the status quo is kind of what I was throwing out there. Because when you look at this, the Strafford County Nursing Home, the budgeting projection, the census of nursing home is a foundational component of paying for it. And so what is the status quo census of Riverside is kind of what I wanted to know. I can't pull it up, but so what is the census of Riverside?
107.
170, so that's what I threw it out there.
Yeah.
Today.
What,
Well, we have a couple of people in the hospital,
Right.
so,
Right.
but, you know, our
Fluctuates.
our bed reservation is for 170 people.
and then what is this was a tricky one I was just asking, because in his spreadsheet, he throws that out also. What is the census of the Medicaid? I'm trying to say this correctly, Medicaid, solely relying on Medicaid,
97.2%.
no, in the count number, like what is in the
whole county?
the whole county? How many are on
Well, somewhere
Medicaid?
about 400.
So I thought it was about 400 he had in there. So we do approximately 170 out of
Yeah,
400.
I think it was 385 the last time I looked.
I'm not sure that, in the old days, you used to be billed exactly for what your your census was. Back a number of years ago, it was changed to basically your percentage of the cap that's set by the legislature that you all set. Which was up
3-year rolling average.
and which is based on a 3-year rolling average of the counties. I don't have, as you see from the cover letter, for those of you on the executive committee, the state has yet to give us the 3-year rolling average, which makes it very difficult because I don't know what to tell you my Medicaid bill is gonna be. Usually we have a 3-year rolling average by mid-July. I've been emailing, the counties have been emailing, everybody's been emailing Henry Lippman, asking him for that data so we know what to pay monthly, effective July 1st. And we know there's gonna be a 3% increase. And we didn't budget for an increase because the last 2 years there was no increase. This year there was a 3% increase, so that's gonna have to be adjusted in the budget, but I don't know what to adjust it. Because we don't know what our county share is. Usually it's 8.5%, 9%. Even though we're one of 10 counties, it's usually 8.5 to 9%, but I don't, like I said, I don't know. Won't change that much, because that's why they do a 3-year rolling average instead of a 1-year average. So I'm waiting. We emailed them as recently as the 13th.
So the reason I'm bringing this up, so we toured Riverside. And if you try to meet current nursing home standards, you can only put one person per room. That's foundational, right?
That's what Medicaid, that's what CMS would like, yes.
Okay, so if, in order to, and we still probably will not meet current nursing standards, even if we did that, but let's just suppose that's our starting point. Riverside, if we have a census of 170, would have to cut in half. We would have to somehow, what is that? 85 people would no longer be able to be housed in Riverside because we only have one person per room. And so
well, we would probably rearrange things so it would be a little bit higher than that.
okay.
But there'd be probably 65 or so people that wouldn't have a place to be.
Okay, so let's start with that. So if we did that, then 65 people who are solely relying on Medicaid, who only have $2,500 in assets, would somehow have to be absorbed in the surrounding nursing care private facility. Does that seem reasonable?
They have to go somewhere.
They have to go somewhere. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because when we're talking about building a new nursing home, how many people is the nursing, what is even if we didn't add any capacity to said nursing home, what is the status quo of what we're currently trying to do? And so that's, I assume, is 170. Our facility currently doesn't meet 170. So if we're going to start and the projections in this, in our financing has us going from 170 to over 200.
Well, our licenses are 225.
225. So
Well,
I mean,
yeah, it's
No, not counting.
215 and counting Hyder, it's 229.
okay, so
And Hyder's license used to be exclusive to hospice, although Hyder's, I'm sorry, excuse my. Hyder's license now is, there's no more certificate of need board, that's been wiped out. So our current Hyder, capacity is, we can pretty much do what we want with those beds. They have to be hospice, although that's what we've done.
Okay, but realistically, Hyder, give me the number. Capacity.
14.
Okay.
so the only reason I'm throwing this out there is I'm just trying to figure out how big this facility we're trying to build. It's like, so I mean, if we did nothing new, and we were trying to meet our current need, the status quo, just a status quo building, it has to house 170 people. Is that kind of what we're looking at?
No,
No,
no, we're not looking at that.
No, because, well, first of all, let's kind of back up here. When we had a certificate of need board, first of all, you couldn't do any of these things without, in the old days, unless the certificate of need board approved it.
Okay,
Okay? So about 20 years ago, there was a certificate of need was produced for Strafford County, saying that we needed 100 more beds,
okay,
20 years ago, in the system. Now, at the time, we had about 400 people on Medicaid in varying facilities. Strafford County had the bulk of those. We were operating at capacity, okay? And you have to, when you do an historical analysis, you have to do what happened prior to COVID, because COVID changed a lot of things, okay? So the numbers changed during COVID dramatically because people weren't putting elderly in nursing homes because of the scare that went through, with Governor Cuomo and New York and all those things. So the system, systemically, the entire system, nobody put people in nursing homes. They were leaving them in hospitals. Hospitals were screaming and yelling. If you remember, if you went by the hospitals, they had the ventilation systems out the windows and all these other things that they tried to do. Okay, so a lot of those people stayed in hospitals. So you've got a pre-COVID historical analysis that operated for probably 50 years that way. And then we went into COVID, and now we got post-COVID, okay, where things are trying to ramp back up to like they used to be.
but what's the bottom line though? I mean, I
What's
love
that?
the history. What's the bottom line though? I think that we're not looking at outside of our community. Why is it that Strafford County has to build bigger and better and has to have more seats than other people are coming here from other counties? What is the total capacity in the surrounding area?
Of,
And why are we not
of,
looking at that for nursing homes? What's the total capacity up there? And what's the total need? And COVID just
400.
has a big part of it, but
yeah. Well, I just said that 20 years ago, they said we needed.
yeah, but 20 years ago, what is
Right.
it today?
Well, today, they, first of all, they abolished the certificate of need board. That was abolished.
That's correct.
So certificate of need board was abolished and they didn't replace it with anything. Okay, the legislature didn't replace it with anything. So now it's just a matter of playing with numbers. Historical numbers. The old formula was, in a second I'll remember it. There was a percentage of the population over 65. Then we had, that's how they used to do it. They would say a percentage of the population. Because historically, roughly 9%, between 8 and 9% of the people over the age of 65 will spend some time in a nursing home. So depending on the nature of your population, what the population looks like, and where the population's going, you can pretty much assured that between 8 and 9% are gonna spend some time in a nursing home in some form or fashion, okay? So, because they threw the whole system out, that's the only thing that CMS and the state plan can rely on is population figures and percentage of the population figure.
And that's likely to keep going up because
That's
we
correct.
have the baby boomer generation aging out now. And I know that some people have argued, well, but we're gonna be healthier. We have all these, new weight loss drugs or that kind of thing, but that's not necessarily gonna keep people from getting dementia or from women falling and breaking their hip and, so I don't think our need for numbers is gonna go down anytime in the near future. It's probably gonna go up. And we can look at data from that, but as a county though, we're not responsible. Or we can't say, oh, the neighboring counties can take care of our population for us.
We take care of theirs.
That's what we're doing now.
That's what we're doing now. So why can't we look at that? Look at the capacity outside
Yeah,
of
right.
here and run the numbers based on what is the capacity around our county, because there are other nursing homes everywhere.
Mhm.
So
There is a
Well,
private nursing home.
there's private nursing homes, there's public
Um,
nursing homes.
Thank
Do
you.
we have
sorry,
that?
Janet, yeah.
I see where you're going with that, but we can't assume that other nursing homes are going to take our Medicaid patients. By federal law, they're required to take a certain number,
Mhm.
but they're not gonna absorb what we can't take here.
But at least we
Where-
need to know that though. We need to know those figures, those numbers.
I
That would be
agree.
good for us to know that.
Okay.
Al?
So only, do we have any projections? It is really weird, and I was having discussion before that, because COVID did have a kind of an incredibly profound impact, so it skews the data. And we're talking about using data back from 2019. And it's really amazing to me that we abolished the needs thing, which is really stupid. But is there anything that we have more current than 20 years? Do we have like is there any kind of 5-year look ahead window that can give us a guess at
State
what our
plan.
needed capacity is?
State Medicaid plan has projections in it.
Can we get those?
That, yeah, we can get those. I mean, the last numbers that we had, right, when we were operating the IBN, I'm doing it from memory, but it was, we had 16,000 people in Strafford County over the age of 65. And in between 15 and 18 years, we were gonna have 60,000 people over the age of 60.
But just to clarify, Ray Bowers, can you tell us how many residents now come from other counties to Riverside, or what is the percentage?
I'd have to check. There is some residents from other counties that are primarily on our behavior unit. That was the
Right.
deal we made with state
State.
Medicaid.
Yeah.
We did that, it's a revenue source. B, we have to go back about 20 years ago. State Medicaid approached the counties about taking behavior unit people.
Okay,
We agreed to house some behavior unit people from Rockingham and Carroll County, which they pay for in the sense of their percentage of Medicaid as part of their Medicaid cap. But we house. And so, but in terms of our regular population, they're Strafford County residents, or in the worst case scenario, there might be a handful whose family is from Strafford County and they want to bring their family member back home. That does happen on occasion. So technically, they're Strafford County residents because they declare their residency when they come to the nursing home, so.
yeah,
If they weren't a Strafford County resident and they came to the nursing home with, say, I'm from Rockingham, I'm gonna come to Strafford County, go to Riverside, would Rockingham then pay like essentially a tuition or a
Yeah,
reimbursement?
They'd pay their
Pay
share
their share from settlement.
Okay.
of the settlement cost, yeah. Yes, that's part of the number that I'm waiting for the state that I mentioned that I talked about earlier.
yeah,
But you have to understand that Medicaid and Medicare is a national health insurance program. Those benefits are portable.
those benefits are what?
Portable.
Okay, yeah,
So if a family, if I grew up in Maine, okay, in Upper Maine, and my mother lives up in Upper Maine, but I live here in Dover or Rochester, and she's no longer to take care of herself, and she's from Freeport, then they try to, well, they're last in terms of priority for us, but we still will take them if there's family support systems there. And that's true around the entire country. Okay, so we've taken some of our people and shipped them out.
Yeah.
That were with us, that we shipped them all over the place. California, Ohio. And depending on what type of state plan is passed by each state, some states are more lucrative than others in terms of what they provide people. As an example, in New Hampshire, we're all high. We allow you $2,500 with personal effects. And $74, I think it is a month now. Massachusetts allows you to keep $100,000 of your own effects. Some states allow as much as $250,000. It just depends on what the state plan looks like. Because, and what that mix costs with the federal government and that state has. So, for instance, Louisiana is an 80-20 state. 80% of the cost is paid by the federal government, only 20% of the cost is paid by the state. New Hampshire, because we're considered to be a wealthy state, we have a 50-50 split.
That's right.
Okay, so, again, but the benefit, the point is the benefit is poor.
Okay,
Okay, so sure, we've got some people here that are from Strafford County, but we've also shipped people from Strafford County to other facilities. It's reciprocal, so. And in New Hampshire, the county in which you resided when you applied for Medicaid would be the county that would pay the bill. Right, even though you weren't in that county. And what we did was years ago, we had a finance department here that had a lot of people in it. And what we would do is, if you were from Strafford County, you're from Farmington, we would research back to make sure you were a Farmington resident, and then you would go on our rolls and we would pay for you. Then what would happen is we would transfer paperwork back and forth to the state. They had the same duplicative effort going on at the state level. So, Rockingham might have found out, well, wait a minute, somebody lived in Dover for 20 years and they only lived in Rockingham for 6 months. So Rockingham would reject the bill. That would go to the state would turn around and send us the bill. And then we would go, no, that doesn't make any sense, we're gonna ship it back. And all we did is ship paperwork back and forth between us all, back and forth between the counties and between the state. And we would argue about whose responsibility it was. It was, so I negotiated a deal with the state, which created the 3-year rolling average to eliminate all this bureaucracy. And I laid off a bunch of staff here as a result of it. And we went with a 3-year rolling average, which had about a 1/100th accuracy to it. Was in 1% of 100% of being accurate.
wow.
Okay, and we were able to save about $15 million
Wow.
statewide when we went to do that. It took me 4 years to negotiate the deal, but I did it. And Strafford County savings at that time was about $800,000. I got rid of the whole department doing that. But now we have a 3-year rolling average, and that 3-year rolling average, as Ray has mentioned, is subject to the cap that the legislature sets. So what that means is that if we're spending 300 million, let's just use round numbers, if we're spending $300 million in Medicaid, and 50 cents on the dollar comes from the county, that's 150 million, right? They take the average of the number of people that are on Medicaid over the course of 3 years, and they estimate what your bill is going to be. That's what we do, instead of having all these bureaucrats and these needless paper shuffle and roll back and forth. So that's what he was referring to. He's waiting to see what
Okay.
the 3-year rolling average is of how many people that are on Medicaid, and it fluctuates.
When does the newest 3-year rolling average come out?
I think it's July 1st. It's the beginning of the fiscal year. I mean, the state's fiscal year. Based on the state plan. So it just,
So every single year though, on July
every single
1st?
year, the last year drops off and the
Okay,
new year comes on. That's why Ray said we didn't have an increase.
so sometimes it's the same.
Well, sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's not the same.
Okay.
It depends on who's being serviced in the system. In the bigger picture, okay? And we fluctuate depending on when you drop off, when it's a rolling average, you lose the last year. The new year you pick up might have, say, another 50 people on the rolls, as an example. We average around 385 to 400, somewhere in that range. And also on top of all that, about 20 years ago, we passed the legislature passed a cap on all nursing home beds. Just an artificial law that says there will be no more nursing home beds. In New Hampshire.
Public or private?
Not zero, just shut it down, okay? And so they passed a law that you can't have any more Medicaid beds. They just shut it off. Now, when they did that, there's a follow to that. Okay, there's a follow to that. Then they eliminated the certificate of need board. They eliminated that. So
So what's the bottom line, sir? What's the bottom line
on what?
on all of this?
The bottom line is that eventually you will build a nursing home. That's the bottom line. The question is how, the size, and where we fit into the management of long-term care services. What's the county's role in long-term care services going to be? That's the big picture. What are we going to do as a state as it relates to long-term care? And that's been the debate that's been going on for 30 years. Actually, it started 50 years ago, but it started when Medicare and Medicaid was first instituted.
But again, see, you're saying the state, so it brings me right back to my thought process of looking at all the counties, what the need is, what the capacity is.
Right.
Why do we really need to put in an oversized nursing home? When we could have capabilities.
Well, we weren't proposing an oversized nursing home.
Well,
we were
hundred and
proposing.
thirty-seven million is oversized to me, but.
Well,
But-
yeah, you're comparing apples to oranges.
I think,
It was the number of beds. It was the number of beds that were.
Can I just ask real quick, you had mentioned, I just want, because I want to write it down as a note, about other states, because I think that's important. So Massachusetts lets someone keep 100 grand. So, but New Hampshire lets you keep $2,500 and that's it,
Right.
and they take everything.
Right.
Yeah, because of the 50-50, pretty much, right?
No, because we're cheap.
Yeah, that's what's up. Okay.
So
Well,
I,
I mean, it's basically.
I just want to make one, I didn't interrupt, one comment about the, in terms, because I think what we're trying to establish, particularly when we talk about rolling average and everything, is like, instead of what is the capacity we're really shooting at, is the question you're asking.
Yeah.
What is our need?
They're real.
What is the count? So how many beds are we looking at in a new nursing home? How does it relate to the data? Sadly, we don't have a board anymore to tell us exactly what we need, which would be super helpful, but how do we establish what we think? And 3 years is a pretty short window if you're gonna do like a significant capital improvement.
That's,
Yeah.
I just have an idea that,
that's its whole.
and it was echoed, by these legislators here. I'll reach out to Henry Lipman, the head of Medicaid. And even though the certificate of need board isn't in existence, the standards that were set by the certificate of need board, I'm sure is
Changed.
at the tip of his tongue.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, and that is so many beds per 1,000 people in
Over
65. And then we can, and I can do this in preparation of your next meeting. I can also reach out to regional planning, get their projections for people that are 65 and over the next period of time, say 10 years, 20 years.
Right.
And I can have those statistics available for you for your
That
next
would be
meeting.
helpful.
yeah.
And I'll send it in advance in case anybody has any questions about them.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah, I can do that easily.
I would like to hear from Rep Burnham and then I want to make a comment myself.
Thank you. What is this county required to provide for long-term care? Are we required long-term care?
You're required to pay for it.
We're required to pay for it.
Not required to run a nursing home, but you're required to pay for it.
So we have many private facilities, and I'm sure there are more that are in development stages. Why do we feel we need to have so many beds?
Because the system, the fact that the county being in the business provides two things. Number one, it provides an artificial cap on costs. Because if you didn't have a county facility, everybody that was on Medicaid was required, you'd have to require them by law to stay in a private facility. Now, what happens when you do that this is a debate well, it's not a debate, it's a long-term discussion I had back as far as when Terry Morton was commissioner of health. He wanted to take the counties out of the business. He just wanted to sell all the nursing homes off, but you had to replace it with something. And so when the discussion went into how do you replace it, there was all kinds of regulation that followed that. Forcing private nursing homes to take Medicaid people, whether you liked it or not. Which always goes against New Hampshire's grain anyway, that force people to do anything. You had to regulate the private sector in such a manner where it would not be inherently inflationary. Because back then what they would do is what they'd have a fee for service. We'll pay you a fee, you give us a service. And that fee for service system is inherently inflationary. They had it in hospital systems. And they found out that, that's why hospital medical inflation, remember, for a long period of time, hospital medical inflation was running wild. Okay, and that was because it was a fee for service system. So Terry Morton and I and a handful of other folks tried to study how we could take the counties out of the business and tried to see what kind of regulatory environment would have to be created in New Hampshire to force the private sector to absorb the cost for Medicaid. And what you'll find is that enforcing the private sector to take these folks, people that have resources to pay, their prices, their costs were jacked up to make up for the Medicaid losses. When that occurred, those people's assets were spent down faster. Okay, their personal assets were being spent down quicker to pay for those who didn't have any assets. So that rubbed some of the leadership in Concord the wrong way, especially people like Neil Kirk. I can name a few others legislators too, saying that's not right. Why would you raise my cost to be in a nursing home because I have a $500,000 home for someone who never had a home? I said, well, that's the only way you're going to do it. Either that, it's just no other way of doing it. Okay, yeah. So there's no other way of paying for it. And because the state had no broad-based taxes to support the Medicaid program and the regulatory process that would have to be put in place to regulate the private sector. I mean, regulate. I'm talking real regulate. They would all have to have dementia wings. They'd all have to have skilled nursing facilities. A lot of those nursing homes would have had to expand or go out of business because they didn't have the capacity or the ability from a capital perspective to meet the demand. So there was a lot of things that went into that conversation. It was almost 4 years. We discussed it at the state level of how we could do it. I, for one, wanted to sell the nursing home. Ray will remember that I wanted to sell it 30 some odd years ago. I was convinced that we can't sell it because it'll become inherently inflationary. So you're required to pay for it under the statute. Now, if you come up with $380 million, I think it's around $380 million right now. If you come up with $380 million in some other form of manner, besides the use of the property tax, you could potentially do what we're talking about. Take the counties out of the business. But they would.
Yeah, I want to definitely speak on.
Well, yeah, I want to make.
Yeah.
A comment. But basically, the private nursing home won't take Medicaid as it is now unless
Correct.
we force them to, but as George is saying, my mother's in a nursing home in Strafford County now, and they flat out said we're private pay only. So if she's out of money, she's out.
She's out.
That's the way it works.
I'd like to speak on.
But I feel like there's, we're looking at both capacity. What is our capacity? But also what, we need a new nursing home because it is so out of compliance now with current standards. And just for myself, I'm a little disappointed that so few of this committee actually followed through and did a tour of the Riverside Rest Home as a part of the last meeting. Because I think it's really important to walk through those halls, walk into that room. And for me, the shared rooms, even though my mom's in a shared room at the private nursing home right around the corner, these rooms are so much smaller. I mean, I was, just shocked and saddened looking at the little space that we're giving those people. And then they're sharing a toilet with the room with two people right next door. And
I think maybe some of the people didn't take their tour because they've already been there. I've been there. I lived there for a while, so
okay,
I've seen it. So I
but
would
the
make
last
that
time
assertion
it
if they
was
did.
offered to this delegation 2 years ago, again, there were very few people that took it. So I just want people to, we're looking at a facility that has no central air conditioning. So I don't know how long we're gonna keep arguing about whether we need to build a new nursing home or not.
But has
Hopefully,
any of that changed in 50 years? The rooms are the same size, for the same number of people, nothing's changed.
well, the state, the
Except
federal,
your desires for people that have more.
The standards have actually,
Yeah,
the standards have
Standards.
changed. Yeah, the standards.
Nothing has
I really love
physically
this right
changed.
now.
In terms of the caregivers 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30, only your desire has changed.
well, I would think a facility has seen wear and tear of 40 or 50 years, and the federal regulations about what is a standard of care no longer has two people in a little room sharing a toilet with two other people. So that has changed. So, yes.
All right, so I just wanna put this out there, because I know every single person here and every single person on my side of the aisle, 100% agrees with you, 100% agrees with you. There needs to be, that facility is old and dated, and it's end of life, and it's been end of life for a long time, okay? That's it, but I think there's a plan. I think there's a way without building a new nursing home. And we've been talking, our caucus here have been talking, and I wanted to explore it. So, I've got to call into an expert to look at this, because if you did this 30 years ago, it's not 30 years ago. And if we research and we find some outside experts that basically, they provide factual data and a complete plan, basically to phase out the nursing home, we can do such better service for those folks that are in there. And I think it could happen in 26 at some point. So basically explaining what this would look like for the private care of the Riverside Rest Home seniors and the funding of their living expenses up until that point, till their end of life, the people that are currently in there right now, okay? So basically, the plan would be to start a slow phase out. So while patient numbers are decreasing at Riverside Rest Home, staff are reduced too. We'd be looking to phase out to begin at some point in 2026, okay? So we figure out the county portion of the funding for current patients to end of life. We don't need anything of what you're talking about with regulations. All those regulations are the same for these private care facilities. We don't have to worry about that, because they're basically going to a place that is already regulated by the federal government and all of that, and Medicare and everything else. They're already regulated by that. They have to. State and federal. So we basically know what we're paying right now, currently, per patient, okay? Moving ahead, we discuss an indigent, like elderly county stipend to support 150 seniors. We're gonna cap it at 150, okay? So that's how that would look, moving forward. So it's not, we're still gonna care for a portion of that indigent population, okay? And that would have to be, of course, they'd have to be domiciled in Strafford County like we talked about. And yes, if it's a husband and wife and it's their mother or father or whatever, and they're moving back home, that counts for it, right? Because those people have been in Strafford County and they've been paying taxes for years. That makes sense, right? So, you can discuss all that criteria for that, what that looks like. So this could be something that's planned for a specific period of time. It could be something that is not necessarily forever funding. We know how the legislature works. We know how the delegation works. It's 2 years and things change and whatever. But I think if you're really trying to move forward quickly without having to planning and building and funding and all of this kind of stuff, which is unbelievably expensive right now, and taxpayers are unbelievably burdened. For us to hook up folks right now in that nursing home and give them the quality of life that they deserve, this is the best pathway. Lastly, so if the nursing home is phased out completely, you basically sell off all of the equipment. You either sell the building, but I don't even think that makes sense. I think you actually demolish the building. The county could take, a very small amount of money, hand it over pretty much to like what Covered Bridge is doing. And we could have 2 or 3 different type of Covered Bridge, low income housing there. Perfect. Strafford Cap, there's funding that comes in from grants, federal and state. It's beautiful. And we have an unbelievable area for low income seniors here, right on the county farm. Okay? That is what we're looking at. And I'm not looking at a building right now. I want us to explore that option. I think it's a smart option. I think it doesn't kick any of our elderly to the curb. It basically is saying that we're going to help our indigent population in the future. And that's what I want that explored. Because this wasn't just a committee here to build a new building. We were gonna explore all options on the table. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So that's where our caucus is looking at. Even experts in the field that have given lots of feedback on a building and stuff like that are in care. They can put in their 2 cents about this as well. But I want it explored. I don't want it just to be like, oh, hey, we looked at that 30 years ago or 10 years ago. I don't care. It needs to be looked at right now.
Okay, there's a couple of things though that what you're saying. I totally agree. More housing like Covered Bridge is excellent. But those are not nursing home beds. That is not skilled care.
Right.
These are people that need help with all their activities of daily living. And that's apples and oranges. There may be some people in the nursing home that could be in a mental hospital actually instead of a nursing home, right? They need different care, but for people that actually need nursing home beds, you're gonna create a stipend to send them to a private nursing home. Well, they don't have to take them now. You'd have to change current statute and everything, as George is saying, regulation to force the private nursing homes to take these patients if we completely phase out our nursing home.
We're not talking about thousands of people. We're talking about 170 people right now, where then we're gonna cap out at 150. Like, those numbers, I think, are totally doable in our entire county. Like, we're talking about spending something on average of $150 to $200 million when, another gentleman from the delegation last biennium was talking about the school that was 70 or 80 million that blew away their tax cap and everything for funding. I mean, what are we doing? We cannot sustain this. Because it's so much more than the building. It's the benefits, it's the staff. There's no problem at all in any of the wonderful staff that are at Riverside Rest Home in getting a job. I'm telling you right now, the bonuses that are being paid, the shortages right now. My daughter's been at Dartmouth Hitchcock for 2 months and her entire floor was 80% travel nurses, which they're paying almost double the other employees there. The need is great. And I don't think that all private is gonna say, give the bird to, and it might not even be 170 at that time when it's phased out. It might only be 150.
I think we need to hear from other people now. Al?
So, I, in an earlier incarnation of my municipal life, had to work on, whether to pull out a historic dam in Durham. It was a barrel of laughs, let me tell you. But when we did it, we looked at all of the options, not just pulling it out. We looked at rebuilding it. We literally had three options. So in terms of your thing, fine, absolutely, yeah, let's look at that. And why not? Why would you not? So there are a couple of, so you have a lot to flush out there. That was like a broad stroke,
It
and
was.
of course, the devil is in the details, and there's a lot of painful details I can just think off the top of my head. The first, when you begin to do the staffing decline, it will not break clean. Let me tell you, what'll happen is the cost per resident is gonna go up. And I've seen this in schools, because everyone's like, well, just it doesn't break clean.
I
So
do
it's gonna be expensive when you do that. Second of all, you have to be, you need agreements. We can't just theoretically 65 people are gonna be absorbed by the board or, no, we need to know that. So in terms of investigating this option, absolutely. But the devil is in the details. I have no, why would we not do this? Because ideally, if it doesn't function, we need plan B. So the other plan, which is why I started out with what is the size, and you kind of led it with the thing saying this is an overcapacity. What is, by projection, the capacity that the county would need to build? If we are going to build said nursing home, how many people are sitting in that nursing home? Because that is one of the options on the table. So between those two, sure, let's work on those two options and lay them out. Why would we not? I don't want to keep having the same argument over and over again. Do we need a nursing home? Do we not need a nursing home? If you want to say we don't need a nursing home and you have a plan that is fiscally responsible and holds up to scrutiny, more power to you. Absolutely do it. We'll do another one where we think what the projection shows us, this is a nursing home we're going to build. This is how much it's going to cost. This is what a hard number looks like in the real world of actually building something per square foot. This is what it's going to be like. And lay those down on the table. So, I mean, that, in every really hard decision I've done, we've always done that. Because if you don't, you won't have enough trust to pass the first one you're gonna have to go with. Because I can tell you, it is gonna be expensive. This idea that this is somehow gonna fall under building a new capital facility and trying to do it under a tax cap is ridiculously hard. I mean, that is this report. You tell me how you're gonna squeeze $130 million bond into a budget and not spike your tax cap.
Right.
It is hard, really, really hard. So establishing if you want a plan where we ship everybody off, great, we'll look at it. But alternatively, we need to establish a baseline of what the nursing home would be, and if we're gonna build it, what it would cost. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm only gonna say that we do need a nursing home. We all agree we do. Yes, Covered Bridge is wonderful, but as you said, that's not skilled care. We have people at Riverside who need nursing care 24/7. And we just can't do that if we have these other little facilities where people can sort of live almost independently. You can't do that. And the reason we have a nursing home and all the regulations, federally and state-wise, is because we need the efficiency of a facility where we can best afford to offer the best care possible for people who really need that nursing care at the end of life. There is something between Covered Bridge and Hyder, and that's our.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. I wasn't saying that the folks at RRH would be transitioned into like the low-income senior housing. I'm not saying that. Those are two separate entities. I'm just saying that I think we could have two or three more low-income senior housing in a private capacity, with it's kind of like public-private in a sense with Strafford Cap, and I think that's fantastic. That's completely separate than the conversation I'm talking about here with Riverside Restaurant.
yeah, but the idea that the private nursing homes are going to absorb all these Medicaid-only nursing home residents, it's not the case unless we force them to, and I just don't see that's gonna set off things all over the state, right?
Well, the Healthcare
Because-
Association will weigh in on that
Yeah,
heavily.
But one takeaway from, the Shivanet report that I remember clearly from a couple years ago is that the idea was that we would build skilled nursing beds within it, because right now, our residents, if they have a fall or some kind of setback, and they need a period of skilled nursing, they're gonna go to a rehab unit. We're holding the bed open for them till they come back. But the rehab units, they'll keep them as long as they can, right? Because that stay is paid by Medicare. It pays a higher rate. So if we were able to have some of our own skilled nursing beds in which, when our own residents are recovering and need that care, that would bring more revenue in, because that's Medicare dollars and will help offset some of the costs. It makes sense for us to do that.
See, I don't agree. Why not they just stay out then after that point?
Because when we're holding a bed for them.
We don't need to
because-
hold bed.
Huh?
Like, that's what I'm saying, like, if they're out in the private sector, in a sense, and they're getting the higher rate, that's great. Why do we need to build something so then we take in more? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like,
No,
I think that's the whole point of phasing that out. There is already a place for them. They're getting the care they need. Isn't your mother in that facility like that?
It's temporary.
Yes.
It
Yeah,
doesn't work.
it's-
The system doesn't work. That
and
Medicare
it-
doesn't work.
It would make our own facility, more fiscally sound is why, right? If we have all the burden of only only Medicaid as a resource. And we look at them, there are patients, right, that we're taking care of them. And for a period, they need skilled nursing. Why can we not provide that as well? That was sort of the whole point of it, and will help
Right.
our bottom line. Right, then-
This isn't a business here. I mean, you're trying to run a business with taxpayer dollars here. And this was brought up previously. I've been listening to these stories, I believe it was May of 22. And it was said that we want to compete with the private sector, which is what you're saying with that. And that received a little pushback. So then all of a sudden, we're gonna get something crafted to sound a little different. What's the level of care we're supposed to provide? These are supposed to be for people who are down on their luck, whatever, I would be happy if you're gonna pay my bills to put me in a nursing home. I'm not gonna squawk about what level we're at here. I'll thank God that my fellow citizens gonna be paying my way,
Well,
okay?
but actually, if all these residents have Medicare, and that's their right that they've earned their entire life to have Medicare. So it's not like we're taking money that belongs to someone else. It's saying we're gonna let their Medicare bills pay for their skilled nursing for a little while they need it. We're not saying compete with the private sector.
But all these employees you're adding, they're highly pensioned and benefited when you get into the government employees, okay? So I don't want this thing to increase any more than it has to be. You're looking to expand this whole thing. We're gonna go assisted living, we're gonna do this.
So, just a suggestion. Can you write up your idea?
Yep.
Write your idea up. Figure out how you're gonna pay for it and submit it to the committee.
I will.
Because, I don't wanna get into these, we're arguing about a lot of things right now. Let's solidify your idea down and
Yeah.
submit your idea.
Okay.
Cause right now, it's on the fly. As much as I like to MacGyver, I'm a pretty concrete person. Additionally, I think we've already asked, and Administrator Bauer said he would do it. Is gonna come up with some kind of projection, what we think is this, whatever our need is gonna be. That will lead us down, I hope, two pathways. You're gonna do some homework and get some stuff, and we'll have some homework. That will allow us to look at two separate options right now, is what I've heard from this meeting. And that will give us a pathway forward. In terms of arguing what level of care we're gonna get, I'm gonna stick with what the standards are for nursing care. I don't wanna talk about Taj Mahals or basic or anything. I'm a code person. We're gonna follow code, we're gonna meet code, that's how it's gonna work. So that again, to recap, we have two options, I think, that have been laid on the table. Let's investigate them.
And I agree. I think we're getting into the minutia in some ways, and I don't want, you know, not you, not pointing at you saying you're doing that. You know, I even represented Lamontagne, she's getting into the details and stuff, and I think we need to kind of take it to that still higher level because I don't wanna get into arguing about details, and I think we're not far apart. We just need to really flush out different ideas, different plans, and see how they work out. I do wanna say that to me, I think we need to be very, very smart about numbers. So for example, let's say, you know, the delegation decides, the majority of the delegation decides they're gonna put together, you know, it's gonna be a building, it's gonna be a new nursing home. We need to decrease that. We cannot have it based upon a number that is the need. Because yes, I get it, the need is always great. It could be whatever, 250 or whatever. We don't have, our constituents don't have the money for that. So we're gonna have to do what we can, and that is whatever that's capped at, 150, 125, 25 skilled. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm just saying, we can't base it off just a need, because the need has to follow by money. And we don't have the money. So, and we're gonna be entering in, you know, a very difficult time that people have already been living in under inflation for the last few years. People are losing their homes.
A lot of
Okay.
foreclosures happening.
In Rochester, if everybody seems to call me because I got my phone number out there, okay? If I get one more call from a low income, a fixed income, elderly person, I'm gonna lose my mind. They cannot pay their property taxes. The assessments are ridiculous. We have to, that is what we need to be looking at too. And I wanna be able to help our indigent. I wanna be able to do all these things, okay? But there has to be, it just has to be smart. That's it. And,
There's two things.
Could I just mention one thing?
I had my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to raise my hand. Whenever my turn.
I'm going to defer to the
In putting
administrator
this
for the moment.
together.
I'll defer to the administrator for the moment, but I wanna be,
Mine takes 30 seconds.
please talk.
If you're accepting Medicaid as a payment source, that cannot be subsidized.
that's right.
That's all. I just want to say
That's
that.
right.
So there was a talk about a subsidy for a certain number of people.
Doesn't work.
It either has to pay the whole freight.
All or
That's right.
It's
all or
all or
nothing. That's right.
I just wanted to mention, that's it. I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's just a good reminder.
And we don't determine eligibility. The state determines eligibility. So this artificial idea that you're gonna cap it at 150 is absolutely, that's gonna be dismissed immediately because the state determines eligibility under the state plan that's filed with the federal government. If you have 300 people tomorrow, you've got 300 people you're gonna pay for. It's not a matter, but we can artificially cap.
Yeah.
Them at 150.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about building a building. That's
Okay,
not
building.
for, that's what I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you build a building for 125, you build a building for 150, whatever that number is. I'm not talking about
Okay.
Medicaid or any of that. That has nothing to do with us. We don't, you know, with people applying. I'm talking
Okay.
about if we build a structure.
Did one more comment? Representative?
I wanted to ask this a while back when it was actually brought up. Mr. Chairman, the code guy, when you talked about 170 beds, we're gonna turn divided by 2 to 85. Now, I've been listening to these conversations, as I said, for years. When is that gonna happen? Is that's just gonna happen without, if nothing is done to the Riverside Nurse Home, that's gonna happen?
What's gonna happen, that we would,
That a code is gonna tell us that we're gonna go.
we're grandfathered in, code's always your grandfathered in, so no, as long as the building does not collapse.
Cause I mean, you're leading us, the start of this meeting, you led me to believe that all of a sudden we're gonna have to cast 85 people out.
No, I said to have what I said, I'm just saying, under current standards, to build a nursing home, foundationally, it is, one person per bedroom. Riverside, we don't meet, so my whole thing that I've said, which is ad nauseum, is what is the capacity of said nursing home that we're gonna build, which is why we're gonna get projections and try to work on that. So I just don't like, I really don't like throwing numbers around when you don't have anything to hang them on, because it's a really bad idea. You're just you don't spitball $130 million. You just don't do that. So having built buildings and done capacity studies, that's how you do it. So there's a lot of numbers that keep getting thrown around. Numbers that are not supported by data are worth nothing.
That's
So let's not do that.
I'm surprised that we're this far into the process and we don't have numbers like this. This surprises me.
Well, we do have a lot of numbers,
We do.
you know, it's,
We don't have the
we're
capacity.
trying to, yeah.
Well, the capacity, the initial capacity was based on our license. The license was founded upon a certificate of need process that was the state operated under for a very, very long time.
Which is defined.
Well, the certificate of need process did a lot more than just deal with nursing homes. It dealt with hospitals. It dealt with utility infrastructure. It dealt with all kinds of other things besides nursing home beds, okay? When a hospital would buy when MRIs first came out, they were so highly expensive that the certificate of need board made the determination which hospital would get the MRI, okay? If they had some new technological miracle of some medical device, surgical robots, all those things, it's certificate of need board, they didn't want every hospital buying those because they were expensive, which would get built into the rates that those people would have to pay. So they would just allow certain hospitals that had the capacity to have a surgical robot. So the certificate of need board did a whole. I know in my industry, when they first came out with hydraulic transports for boats, the certificate of need board said there was only going to be one marina that had the capacity to have a hydraulic transport trailer because they were so expensive to construct, and they regulated that. Okay, so the certificate of need board did all kinds of stuff. Now, when they threw it all out, okay, when you throw it all out, and you throw all caution to the wind, okay, and just not talk about any reality, let's just can it all, okay? And then they talked about, okay, we're gonna have the free market involved. Well, what ended up happening, what substituted that? What substituted that was conglomerates that took place with hospitals, as an example, Mass General being one, buying Wentworth Douglas Hospital, HCA buying Portsmouth and buying Frisbee. You had all these dynamics going on in the healthcare industry. You had small nursing homes that got gobbled up by people like Genesis, who, by the way, just filed bankruptcy in the state of Maine. Okay, their nursing home business filed bankruptcy. And as a state that fully funds Medicaid and has sales taxes and income taxes, they filed bankruptcy. Okay, so there's more to this animal. It's a Rubik's Cube than it is to say it's real simple. It's A, B, and C. It's not simple. It's not A, B, and C.
Yeah.
We're the tail of a big elephant.
I think we need to pick the next meeting date, because we have another meeting
Yep.
starting in about 10 minutes. And I would like to take a little break between the two. So about a month from now, what do people think of these? Whoops.
And the numbers that Ray's talking about getting, those are easily available because
Yeah,
I'll call on Monday.
Yeah.
okay,
The
12th of September? No?
I'm coming back from the conference in Canada. Can we do it the following week?
The 19th.
Yeah, that might be good.
Sorry, what?
We'll be back.
Up to the 19th.
Yeah, that's cool.
We're gonna have a veto day. It's about, do you know,
It's not on a Friday though, right?
Yeah,
No,
Yeah,
it won't be. It'll be on a.
Can we do
Thursday,
like the
most likely.
19th as a Friday?
Well,
yeah.
that'll be
So
the
that-
end of the filing period too, so people.
Oh, yeah, actually,
Yeah.
let's not do it during the filing period.
All right.
Well, it'll be the
Yeah.
last day.
There's a candidate forum on the fifth, the 19th, so.
What time is the candidate for? It's in the morning or something?
It's at night.
It's at night.
Yeah,
Can we do the 9 o'clock again on the 19th?
That's fine.
19th.
That should give enough time.
Yeah. Okay.
Figure it out, yeah.
Excellent.
Motion to adjourn.
Um,
Can I make a
We have-
motion to adjourn unless somebody else has something else?
second, all in favor?
Aye. Good morning.